New year, new you across the National Football League, and sometimes that new coaching staff can inject life into these teams. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens and how Lamar Jackson's going to warm up to Todd Monken and that offense because things got a little stale with Greg Roman, Bloom.
Yeah, I think that this is probably one of the best areas to mine for fantasy football goodness, right? When we reflect, Cease, when we look back on what were the shark moves, what were the moves we wish we made or maybe we did make, or the players we targeted, often it has to do with changes in the offense, changes in priorities, changes in what the offense wants to emphasize. And we get into assumption of rational coaching problems. And I think that with respect to the Ravens and Greg Roman and how stale that offense was, again, Lamar Jackson saying, it feels like the defense knows what play is coming. And I think there are probably other players that feel that way, but maybe won't say it. Thankfully, all that stuff has been cleared up. And one of the ways that a better future was being created for Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, other than his contract, other than signing Odell Beckham, other than drafting Zay Flowers, you're starting to see all the pieces come together here, is bringing in Todd Monken, a pass-heavy offense at Georgia. And we've heard Matt Waldman talk about it. Cease, we've talked about it. Lamar Jackson's a good pocket passer.
Mm-hmm.
He is just fine as a pocket passer. So now you have around him, oh, by the way, Rashad Bateman, who's been getting talked up recently. So you have all these pieces. I think you're going to see a much more pass-friendly offense, which in turn should create more production for the running game and put defenses in a greater bind and not allow them to play downhill against the Ravens. Ravens have also had some offensive line problems. We'll see if they can come out of that. Lamar Jackson, number one fantasy quarterback this year in the range of outcomes? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Lamar Jackson, if you say, I'm going into my draft, Lamar Jackson's going to be my quarterback. I'll take him as the fourth or fifth quarterback whenever I need to, as soon as that top three, the big three, Allen and Hurts and Mahomes, once they're gone, I'm taking Lamar Jackson in the next round. I think that's perfectly valid. I think Lamar Jackson, we've already seen him break fantasy football once. That was just because they weren't ready for him. I don't know if defenses are going to be ready for this new offense, at least at first.
Well, and think about Lamar Jackson's rushing ability. It reminds me of when Steve Young became more developed as a passer, when Randall Cunningham used his arm more than his legs, and he could still use his legs. Like, this offense isn't going to take Lamar Jackson's legs away from him. It's going to make him more dangerous.
Right. And you'll have lighter boxes for J.K. Dobbins. I'm interested in what Keaton Mitchell's going to do, too, adding that speed element. I think that he could be a surprise and give them what Justice Hill was not or has not been able to give them. And like you said, Cease, maybe you're not running Lamar Jackson by design as often, which is good because he has been getting banged up. But when he does run, it's against lighter boxes. It's against defenses that are stressed out, trying to cover, including Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, matchup problems, all of these players. Then when Lamar Jackson takes off, you're looking at 60-yard touchdown runs. You're looking at the kind of plays that tilt a fantasy week in your favor.
I don't know if you saw the pictures from the rookie premiere, but you mentioned Zay Flowers, so my heart went pitter-patter because I love him.
Yeah.
He looked like a race car in a red. You know, everyone else is enjoying themselves. They're ready. Like, hey, let's get our picture taken. It's like picture day in school, right? And then you saw Zay Flowers, and he looked like he was ready to play. I, for one, cannot wait to see that rookie out there.
Yeah, and he's the one who should get the layups, right? Odell Beckham, we'll see. Odell Beckham, we know he can win outside. Rashad Bateman, we know he can win outside. You know that Mark Andrews and the routes he runs in the middle of the field. And this is going to be something to watch also. Remember, Marquise Brown didn't work out as well as a Raven as we hoped. If there is a cold zone for Lamar Jackson as a passer, it's downfield outside the numbers. But now you have Zay Flowers who can work the middle of the field, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and it's just going to be about designing plays and Lamar Jackson recognizing who's coming open early in these plays. A lot of times, I think that is going to be Zay Flowers, and I understand why Zay Flowers is excited to play with Lamar Jackson for all of the issues. By the way, Cease, has there been a collective apology from everybody who were banging on Lamar for not having an agent? How many times did we hear that? Oh, if he had an agent. Right. Oh, it's because he doesn't have an agent. I think things worked out just fine for him without an agent, not to mention the extra money he got. But I think that us against the world mentality, right? It's us. It's the people in this room. What player would not be excited? And I think one of the things that we overlook often, are the backgrounds that players come from and the mentality players have to have just to make it this far in the first place. I think they're going to find a leader and somebody that they can go to war with Lamar Jackson. That, yeah, I'd be excited to do that too.
Well, and now look how the other players will respond because they paid Lamar.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go anywhere. You don't look cheap. You don't have a reputation. And we've touched on the things with Baltimore from current and former players or whatever. We don't have to get into that. But, like, you paid Lamar. Players are going to respond to that, and I anticipate that he will respond to it as well. Let's move to the Mile High City, Denver. Bloom. We need to get you to the Mile High City again and talk about the Broncos and talk about Sean Payton. And listen, I've said once, I've said a million times, they're going to run the hell out of the ball. I'm not going to give away too much, but from the early glimpses, and I'll be out there on Thursday, by the way, but from the early glimpses of the offense, somebody's going to be catching a lot of footballs. I don't know who that is yet. I will try to get everyone on the right track before the regular season, before your drafts get here in August, basically, Bloom. But Sean Payton didn't forget how to pass the ball.
No.
It'll just come down to how effective can Russell Wilson be in this offense.
Yeah, I think that's it. See, what I was going to lead with, you just ended with, which is how well is Russell Wilson going to take to this offense? How well is Russell Wilson going to take to being molded into something instead of him dictating these things? And remember, we're still processing. At this time last year, what were we saying? Oh, Russ got a raw deal in Seattle. They never let Russ cook. They never committed to him as a passer, right? Seattle's so stuck in the past because they want to run the ball, and Russ is going to get to go somewhere with receivers and an approach on offense that he's really going to shine. And what did we find out? Well, actually, Pete Carroll, not that much off with the way he was handling Russell Wilson. Some of the whispers you would hear, right? When you hear whispers about Russell, that maybe Russell Wilson was more of the problem. Then we start to hear more things come out. Oh, well, Russell Wilson was trying to dictate things that maybe players shouldn't dictate. So we put all this stuff together. How is Russell Wilson, keeping with the war metaphor, how is he going to react to being a soldier instead of a general, right? We'll see. But I think you're right, Cease, that Sean Payton, we saw what Sean Payton did with Jameis Winston. It was just a little blink there. Jameis Winston played some of his best football of his career. That's probably why he went to New Orleans, right? To be with Sean Payton. So it's a question of whether Russell Wilson, and it sure seemed like from this offseason that he's going to be more receptive, that he's open to change, that he's open to someone telling him, hey, this is how things are going to work better if you go along with this program. But like you said, for fantasy football, you know what name popped? See, it's going to be Tony Scheffler. That's who's going to catch all the balls, right? Julius Thomas. I don't know. Maybe, Albert O is an interesting name here. Absolutely. We'll see. Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick. We know Tim Patrick is a player that the outside football world, fantasy football world, doesn't respect as much as his teammates and his team does.
And the rest of the league,
right?
Like Tim Patrick has a really solid reputation, which he should, which gets me to thinking, like, there's a Marcus Colston on this team. I don't know who it is yet. There's a Michael Thomas on this team. I don't know who it is yet. No, notice how I've mentioned the big guys.
Maybe it's Marvin Mims.
I still think Jeudy could do it if he's checked in. He doesn't check in. If he's not the number one, he won't be the number one all the time. Marvin Mims could easily be that guy. And we're talking about insane speed. Again, one rookie minicamp, I know, but Mims and Patrick are the two names that I'll be watching closely because I don't think Sutton can be what we thought he would be.
And see, I think the bottom line for this, for folks listening right now, is that pay attention, pay close attention. These are uncertain, unsettled situations where there is profit or arbitrage to be captured in fantasy football. But we don't know right now. And anybody who says they know right now is lying to you. We're going to learn, and we may learn during the season. So we talk a lot about being nimble and agile once we see the first 3-4 weeks of the season. That especially applies to these new offenses because it may well be a situation where coming out of training camp, Sean Payton and the Broncos have a certain plan. But then once we see when the lights go on, that plan can change based on how these players play. So be paying close attention to OTAs, to training camp. We've got a guy. I know a guy with the Broncos. And again, there's going to be some way you can benefit from this, but you have to be open and receptive to what the football gods are telling us based on what we're hearing out of Denver.
Well, you can tell we've done this show for 18 years because I was just going to talk about the psychology of new teams and new regimes, basically. We've talked about new players, new spots, and hot rookies, and upside, and rockets, and all that. I wanted to really examine how people look at when there is no. People think they know Lamar Jackson. You don't know Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken's system. People think they have, oh, Russell Wilson's washed. We don't know with Sean Payton. And I think the psychology of this might be the most fascinating because you all know your league mates better than I do. But we also can look at just humanity, Bloom, and how people will respond. Like in this new situation, well, either, we already know Lamar Jackson, he's just running. Russell Wilson, he's a bust. Like, we don't know. And that's where the examination comes in.
Yeah, and I think both of these quarterbacks, we can talk about the psychology of what they've been through too. And both of them have an opportunity for things to change. I think for Russell Wilson, Cecil, you talked about this a lot last year. It's not all on his shoulders now. It's all on Sean Payton's shoulders, right? I mean, in a way, it should be a relief to have Sean Payton come into the building and say, I got this. And for the Walmart heirs to say, we're looking at Sean Payton. We're not looking at Russell Wilson anymore. Whether his team fails or succeeds is a referendum about Sean Payton, not about Russell Wilson. For Lamar Jackson, it's finally getting his due, finally getting his respect, and maybe finally getting an offense that is geared towards his real strengths, not just the perception of him around the league.
When we talked about Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers and the ease that he was running the offense with, Bloom, we didn't unpack it as much as I'd like to today because it is Frank Reich. It is Bryce Young, a highly developed passer. So if we look at fantasy value, everyone's looking for value. Like, all right, are people overlooking the Panthers in your eyes?
Absolutely. So we don't know how much of the Panthers' offensive woes were based on poor quarterback play and maybe to a lesser extent poor coaching, maybe to a lesser extent than that, personnel. Now you have an entirely new group on board. I think this offensive line is going to be okay. I think that overall, there are a lot worse off teams offensive line wise. And remember, they got Ike Ekwonu, their cornerstone. Now you have a whole bunch of new hands on deck. But remember this, okay? You here are the two names we need to know. Draft Guys TV alum Thomas Brown and Deuce Staley, one of everybody's favorites, right? So Deuce is going to bring in the run game, right? And what did we learn about this team last year? And my brain sometimes records things that are not correct. Okay, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I believe that there was one sequence in a Lions game last year where they had 5 consecutive running plays that had 5 different concepts, which is very difficult to defend because I think as a defensive game planner, you're like, okay, this is how this team likes to run the ball. But what if this team likes to run the ball all the different ways? Well, how do you prepare for that? So you have that, Miles Sanders, who Deuce Staley knows, right? You have Chuba Hubbard. You have Carolina. Again, what we know about the running game is if the running game is competent, then just any competent running back is going to be able to harvest the value there. But then you bring in Thomas Brown from that, remember that hot Sean McVay coaching tree, right? So he's learned a lot. And you have all these different players. Remember, DJ Chark, who was recruited by Deuce Staley. Okay, DJ Chark had that surgery to clean up, hopefully, the nagging ankle foot issues. We'll see if he's ready to start the season or he's 100% to start the season. But this is a player who can take the top off of the defense, right? You have Adam Thielen, who can give you those layups. Hayden Hurst, who can give you those layups. Jonathan Mingo, who can be a discount A.J. Brown in terms of being a big bully in the middle of the field
Terrace Marshall
with the ball in his hand.
We've seen him flash. Haven't seen him.
And then Terrace Marshall, right? Terrace Marshall is an outstanding player, like physically, what he can do coming out of the LSU wide receiver factory. So again, for fantasy football, pay attention. Let's see, because what do we know about Bryce Young? Very fast processor and fearless, can negotiate the pocket. So you add all these things together, and it's just like you were saying about Denver. See, somebody is going to benefit. Now, it could be decided on the field as the season unfolds. We could get clues in OTAs. We could get clues. There's a lot of different players here, and it could be somebody that we're not – Tommy Tremble, right? It could be somebody that we're not totally expecting that, maybe Raheem Blackshear emerges as a receiving back extraordinaire for this team. But Frank Reich, I think, is going to be a humble coach. I don't think Frank Reich is going to come in. I mean, really, Frank Reich sees at this point, when you bring in these strong names like Deuce Staley and Thomas Brown, I almost feel like Frank Reich is just steering the ship.
Mhm.
He's been around success and he knows how to steer the ship, and he's going to let his guys do their job as coaches. And I'm very excited what this offense can do, because there's no way to overstate how much better the quarterback situation got when they went from what they've had during the Tepper era to what they have now.
And I would love nothing more than a Frank Reich coaching tree to begin in Carolina, because Deuce and of course Thomas. Okay, yeah, let's see what head coaches they could be in the future in the National Football League. Now, Bloom, we're going to take a turn on this show, so be ready, because we've gone from like, I'm excited about Baltimore, there's somebody that's going to excite me in Denver, Carolina, don't overlook them, and then we go to the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, now I know it's not new because it's Josh McDaniels, but Davante Adams sounds pissed. He's like, I'm not on the same page as the front office. I guess it's new because Tom Brady's part owner now or whatever. But I'm like, okay, excited Raiders. Oh, God, Jacobs could be a holdout. They've moved on from Darren Waller. No Foster Moreau there either. And then, of course, Davante Adams now in his latest comments saying, like, I'm just going to have to get on the same page and be okay with that. Like, that's I'm not sure if Davante Adams makes it to the trade deadline with the Raiders with comments like that.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. And again, it's one of those things. Are there a lot of players around the league feeling like that right now? Sure. But when a player is letting us know he's feeling like that, that has some significance. But from the topic, the new offense standpoint, I think what's interesting here is how quickly, and if Russell Wilson isn't great, we're going to hear the name Jared Stidham again, right? Because do you remember how good Jared Stidham looked at the end of the year last year? Mm-hmm. I was surprised he didn't get more interest, honestly, as a free agent, or that the Raiders didn't bring him back. But what does that show us? Well, maybe the Josh McDaniels system, and of course, enter stage left Jimmy Garoppolo, who is intimately familiar with the Josh McDaniels way of managing an offense. Is it just as simple as having somebody who speaks the language, right? Just somebody who understands Josh McDaniels. And Jimmy Garoppolo certainly does. So in so much as Garoppolo can stay healthy, we'll see. Is this going to unlock more in this offense that Derek Carr wasn't able to, because Derek Carr wasn't a McDaniels quarterback? Now, you still understand why Davante Adams would be upset, because there's not – here's what Josh McDaniels doesn't do. Yield to talents on the team, right? I don't think you're going to see Josh McDaniels be one of those offensive coordinators that says, well, what do we have? I'm going to design an offense around that.
It's the opposite of what you just said about Frank Reich, who will be very humble and be like, hey, what do you do best? Let's do that.
Right. So I understand why Davante Adams, who, 2022 was an emotionally charged season for Davante Adams, because it was about proving that he wasn't just created by Aaron Rodgers. And he proved that. Certainly from a fantasy football standpoint, he proved that. Do we go to the other end of the spectrum here, where he has to play a different role with Michael Mayer right away playing a big role in this offense, right? Jacoby Myers. What is Jacoby Myers? People don't understand, I think, that Jacoby Myers is a Darren Waller replacement. Mm-hmm. He's not competition. I mean, he will take some snaps in the slot away from Hunter Renfrow, but Jacoby Myers can still play outside too. I think that Jacoby Myers, what he provides to this team is run blocking over and above what Darren Waller could do. As strange as that sounds, right? Because Waller's a big tight end. I mean, he should be able to block, but actually Jacoby Myers is that guy. So and like you said, Josh Jacobs, we're watching what happens there. Zamir White, we'll see if there's a role for him to play in this offense. I do think this offense is going to be balanced, maybe painfully balanced if you're Davante Adams. I do think this offense is going to be highly structured, which is hence the Jimmy Garoppolo signing. But then do we see this offense nosedive if and when Garoppolo gets hurt? So it's not as exciting, but I do think we have to build in some optimism strictly because of what Jared Stidham did and how you wondered, was that there the whole time in this offense if they just had somebody who was simpatico with Josh McDaniels?
Super quick, does Brady's, ownership give Josh another year?
Probably. I mean, we're speculating. As always, Cease, we're peeking through keyholes, but you don't bring Tom Brady in as a figurehead, right? I don't think Tom Brady is in here just as somebody to be an ambassador to the fan base.
Right.
I think is Peyton Manning going to be like that when he's in the brain trust of a team? No. It's probably why Peyton Manning hasn't seized an opportunity yet. So Brady Manning, we might have some more rounds in those battles eventually.
Yes, eventually. Hopefully the AFC West, but we'll see. Let's wrap up today's show, Bloom, talk about Arizona. And DeAndre Hopkins, you're going to have to help me here because I can't really make heads or tails of what DeAndre Hopkins was saying about, I love Arizona. I mean, I don't have to play here, but I love it. It's my home. I'm like, what? Okay, DeAndre. Happy DeAndre or no in Arizona as they look to move on.
I don't know. Don't ask me. He blocked me. He blocked me back after his rookie year because I think it's because of a comment I made about the second half of his rookie year. The area was pointing down. The first half it was pointing up. So I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is. I want to refer back to Denny Carter. I don't want to quote exactly his tweet, but it was basically like, look it up, folks. He had a perfect tweet that was the Rosetta Stone for if you're a quarterback, this is what your tweets are. God is good. I love my teammates. If you're running back, rise and grind. If you're a tight end, I think it was just derp. And if you're a wide receiver, it's like the enemy carries a knife and sneaks through the night to kill you. So I think that, and that's not exactly how he put it, but you get it. And it's a decoder ring for the way that wide receivers express themselves. And again, they're out on an island. Everybody thinks they know, but nobody actually knows how they're actually playing, right? He ran the wrong route. You don't know what route I was supposed to run on that play. So I just think with Hopkins, it's a very disappointing offseason because what he got was a reality check on where his value is now compared to where it was when the Cardinals traded for him. So even at 18 or 19 million, I don't know what his exact price tag was, you would think that'd be more attractive. He's not in the decline period of his career yet. And he is the kind of receiver who probably lasts longer because his production, he's more like Larry Fitzgerald, speaking of Arizona receivers. He's not winning based on speed or jumping out of the gym. He's winning based on route running. He's winning based on ball skills, right? Wow. He's winning based on execution. Yeah. So, but I also think he's staring down the barrel of this team being one of the worst teams in the league and knowing that his future, in so much as there's success, if there is success left for him in the NFL, team success, it's probably not going to be with this team. So it is difficult to decipher that. But when we step back and look at this offense, you do have Jonathan Gannon, who hopefully is going to just keep to his side of the ball on defense. And he brought in Drew Petzing. Well, what do we know about Drew Petzing? The best I can guess, he's going to be a Kevin Stefanski disciple, right? He worked under Stefanski. So where does that leave us? Probably a lot of play action. How easy is it going to be for Kyler Murray to bring this stuff from the chalkboard, the whiteboard to the field, coming off an ACL tear? I think that when we talk about Arizona as an offense that we can take advantage of because of changes, maybe 2024, maybe 2023, we're not really going to see. Remember, this is an entirely new regime, top to bottom. Monty Austinfort coming over from the Titans organization as the GM, Jonathan Gannon, et cetera, et cetera. So this might be a year, especially because of the quarterback health situation coming into the season, that you use to sort out who belongs, who doesn't, and Hopkins doesn't. I don't think they just couldn't find a taker. 2024, then we're going to start to see really what the plans are for this offense. So this might be a wait till next year team.
Okay. Speaking of decoder, there used to be a decoder when we'd be out and about, Bloom. If you saw someone wearing a Nuggets jersey, you'd be like, I know what
yes.
And now,
yes,
people, don't ask people.
You don't need the decoder. It's right down on the corner in your neighborhood.
In most states. And then now everyone's wearing Nuggets jerseys because, well, I don't know if I was blocked by Lakers fans last night, but I had some fun with LeBron fans.
Yeah.
Just saying. Please stop with the goat.
The Nuggets have never even made the NBA Finals,
Never. They've
right?
always lost to the Lakers in the Western Conference Final
Wow.
4 times. They've been there 5 times. This is the only time.
But that's back in like the Alex English days.
Well, even Carmelo Anthony had a run out.
Oh, right. That's
couldn't
right.
do an inbounds pass. So yeah. So now you see a Nuggets jersey, it's going to be a little different.
Yeah. Go Nuggets. Go Denver.
They might be asking you for if you're holding. Anyway.
Yeah, they just need the Rockies, and then they can complete the cycle here. Get the Nuggets. You got the Broncos. I mean, it's good. It's a good time to be a Denver sports fan, but not as good as it is to be a Miami sports fan.
Very good. Very good. He is Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom, and help us grow the YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a bid. I am at Cecil Lammey, and our podcast is at the Audible. Until next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty.